My scripture is taken from Mark, third chapter, 31st through the 35th verse. I want you to buckle up your seatbelts. So we're going to take a ride this morning. We're going up into the spirit. Now, as Jesus was sitting there teaching and preaching, scripture states there came his brother and his mother, and the disciples said that they were standing without, calling unto him. Now, standing without, meaning that they were not, as of yet, part of the circle. And scripture goes on to state that the multitude set about him, and they said to him, Behold thy mother and thy brother, or brethren, without seek for thee. In other words, they were looking for him, or wanted to have a word with him, or wanting to be a part. And he answered them, saying, Who is my mother or my brethren? And he looked around about on them which sat about him and said, Behold my mother and my brother. For whosoever shall do the will of God, the same is my brother and my sister and my mother. So is the scripture reading, Mark, third chapter, the 31st through the 35th verse. Again, I say unto you, good morning. Now, when we read this scripture, it seems to say that there are some folks that are not a part of the family. Jesus, according to the scripture stated, he who does the will of my Father, or the will of God, is my brother, my sister, my mother. But then the thought comes, who are these other people? In what relation are they to me? Jesus said, he who does the will of God, my brother, my sister, and my mother. What happened to all of those kin folks, those cousins and them nephews and them in-laws? Are we to not accept them? We're all children of the one source. We're all children of God. So how is it that the master teacher said, only those that doeth the will of God is my brother, my sister, and my mother? Jesus was speaking about the consciousness not the spirit. For there is but one spirit. Jesus was speaking about the consciousness of the individual, because the Spirit of God is within all of us, each and every one of us. The Spirit is within. For did not he say the kingdom of heaven is within you? And so if the kingdom be within you, then so is the Spirit of God. But there are many that have not accepted. And there are many that do not believe. There are many that do not follow the path of righteousness. There are many that believe that God is not the source of all that they are. So it's like being a part of fraternity, you know. They speak about the brothers of the fraternity, they speak about the sisters of the fraternity. And so, in that frame of mind, Jesus is speaking. Does not mean that we turn away from those that are not a part of that consciousness. It means that we also have to pray, bless, and awaken within them the truth of what they are. Even for those of us that are part of a fraternity or sorority, you know, the work is that we have to reach out to help those that are less fortunate. We have to open wide the doors for those that are seeking a way in, or I should say, are seeking a way out of whatever it is that they're going through that is not conducive to the things of God. For those that are seeking a better way of life, we have to be, should be instrumental in opening the doors. And the doors that we should be instrumental in opening is the door within. Each and every one that comes seeking truth, righteousness, seeking to be healed, blessed, and uplifted to higher states of consciousness. And as the scriptures say, he who does the work of my Father or God, the same as my brother, my sister, and my mother. We have to take in consideration that those, Jesus spoke about those that are at a higher level of consciousness or awareness as to the truth of what they are. And as we function and operate at that higher state of consciousness, we become mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers to those that are still yet bathed or babies in their understanding, in their growth. They have to be fed and nourished and raised up into this consciousness of truth. At the human level, relatives, we embrace those that are outside of our household, our cousins, nephews, in-laws. We consider them all as family. But they're not of our essential household. There are things that go on within our household that does not pertain to those that are outside of the household. And so it is in that consciousness of oneness. There are those that are not ready. There are those that have not been properly prepared to receive. And so for those that have not been properly prepared or those that are not ready, we have to work with them. We have to bring them up slowly. It's like a child starting off to school. They're not ready for college, for university. They have to go from the primary grades all the way up to the 12th grade and then graduation. It's a learning process. You know, I know sometimes we have little babies that come into the world and they act like they're grown. We've heard it said, you know, sometimes it's an old soul in a newborn body. The consciousness has come in, fully grown, fully prepared. But it takes time for that consciousness to work, to grow, and mature with that physical body. And so when we talk about those that are outside of the household, it's about the consciousness. But we cannot turn away from those that have not yet awakened to the truth of what they are. For we as spiritual beings, we come as representatives of the one source we call God to awaken. You know, it's like mother and the father, or mother raising her babies, their children to a point of maturity. And once you have raised that child to a certain level of maturity, you know that the child wants to strike out on its own. Want to go out and experience the world of its own. But if we have laid the foundation rightfully and properly, that child will have a very strong foundation to stand on. However, we must also realize and understand that the child must make choices for itself. And whatever choices the child makes, they're the ones that the child must live by. But always, as spiritual beings, in our prayers and our meditations, we will continuously sending forth the light, blessing, and healing. I have an old saying. And the things that I've spoke over my children, now grown folks, and I always like to say they act older than I am. You know, there are things that our children must experience, things that they must endure. We cannot always be there wherever they are when they have experienced some difficulty. You know, when you have a young child at home and your baby fall and skin his knee or something to the effect, we can pick that child up and nurse that child, banish the child, hug the child, say all manner of sweet things to comfort that child in the pain or whatever the experience that they're going through. But when that child has become mature on its own, has gone out from the household, has gone out from the protection and the guidance, gone out on its own, out into the outer world. I've said of my children, God, let them learn whatever it is that they have to learn. But let not a hair on their heads be harmed. We can ask for no more than that for our children when they have left the household, when they have stepped out on their own. And so, as Jesus was speaking, those that do the will of God are my brothers, my sisters, and my mother. He didn't mean that you forget about the relatives, if we can speak in those terms. He didn't mean that you forget about the other people in your life. What Jesus was saying, that those that have made the commitment and the dedication to follow the teachings, to submit, to surrender themselves to the I am source within them. Jesus was saying that they are the ones that are on the same level of consciousness that I am. But it does not mean that we turn away from those who have not yet arisen to that awareness. It does not mean that we look down on those that are less fortunate, those that are too weak to stand. It means that when we have reached a certain level of understanding, a certain level of knowingness, and we have brought forth and demonstrate a certain measure of spiritual power within us, we must reach out to those that are not a part of our household or our consciousness as of yet. It is like the world of asking for those that are suffering from poverty and famine, those that are hunger, that we give, that we reach out and help those that are less fortunate, because we have a measure of understanding. We have been blessed, and we have that to give to those that are less fortunate. As a young man, that was a saying that we all used to say to those that was less fortunate. Uh, Fellows on the corner, as they say, fellows running in groups. Sometimes there would be someone that would come up and say, "Can I borrow $2, $3, etc." And we would say, and especially me, I would say, "I got mine. You got yours to get." And as I look back on those days and times, it was not the right thing to say. Because a lot of times we have it, but we don't want to let it go. Because we have a feeling that if we let go of what we have, it takes away from us, and then we will experience lack. But that is not so. It is stated, it is a proven fact, and it has been demonstrated in my life. As you give, so shall you receive. Because you're working from that consciousness and that spirit of God within you. And there is no limit to the things of God, to that which God can do in you and through you. But you must be open. You must have that internal realization. As it is stated, God said, "All that I have is thine. And when we're in the flow, and we know that we are in the flow, as it is stated, my cup runneth over. I have a saying that I say that when your cup runneth over, when you go out to, well, I don't know how it is now. When you go out to restaurants in those old days and you order a cup of coffee, tea or something, they bring you tea, your cup of tea with a saucer. Your cup sets on a saucer in those days. And when your cup runneth over, that overflow flows down into your saucer. You can drink from your saucer, that overflow, and still have a full cup. You never ever have to worry about your cup going empty when you're in the flow, because the flow does not stop. It just keeps right on flowing. And so if you're open to the source that is within you, there is no limit to the good. I want you to understand this, and I want you to buckle this down. There is no limit to the flow. And the flow is not that which comes to you from the outside world. The flow is that which comes from within you. So if you're always open and you're always in the flow, you will never, ever have to worry about not having. What did the master teacher Jesus said? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Open wide the doors of the kingdom that is within you and let the good within flow out. And we must stop looking to the world for our good. For our good is within us, has always been within us, and it will always be. It is only when we turn away from that which is in us and seek the good or the so-called good of the world that we experience lack and limitation. We have turned away from the goodness of God. We have turned away from the consciousness and the flow of God that is within us. You know, I've said this many times, that when you're driving down the street and you see people on the corner with a sign saying, help me, feed me, and can't pay my rent and whatever. Sometimes there's compassion. You reach out, you want to give $1 or two. And if that's what you feel like you want to do, it's fine. But you must also be aware that there are people out there on the corner. They're there to just use, to take advantage of those that give according or because of their kindness. Yeah, I still pull up to them lights and I see them people standing out there with their signs. Feed me. I need to pay my rent. I got 4, 5 kids. They need some milk. I still see those signs. But there's one thing I look at first: how they're dressed. And a lot of times, me driving along in the car, they dress better than I am. come to mind. Peter said that he was entering to the temple. There was a young man, or there was a beggar on the side there with a bowl. And Peter said unto him, silver and gold I have not, but such as I have I give unto you. It was a blessing. When you bless an individual, it will go much further than a dollar, because you're giving unto that person that which God has given, installed in you, the greatest of all gifts, the gift of a blessing. I remember when I was a young kid, many, many years ago, there was a man in my hometown. That was a beggar. He had no legs. His legs had been cut off at the knee. When I moved to this area, I happened to see that same individual on the corner, begging. Always during the summer months, or the spring and the summer months, he would be there with his cup, begging. In the wintertime, you didn't see him. I happened to meet somebody one day, and we was talking. He said, "You know that guy that stands on the corner and begs, the guy, the man that has no legs?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I knew him back in my hometown in Richmond." He said, "Let me tell you something about that man." He said, "During the warm months, that man comes and bags and bags and bags. And the summer months, in the winter months, you don't see him." He said, "That man goes to Florida. That man has bagged so much money, he has bought him a nice, beautiful home down in Florida. And he comes north in the summer months to bag. And in the winter months, he goes back home to enjoy his life and all that he has bagged during the summer months." Well, that stopped me dead in my tracks, because I do know that there are those that will take advantage, seek sympathy from others. And we will look at people who looks, oh, they're disfigured, one leg, no legs, in a wheelchair. You feel sorry for them. But feeling sorry for them does them no good. If you want to do anything for them, bless them. And then you have to also know those that are standing on the corner begging, they trying to get their money together to go to the liquor store or to the drug man. I shared this story once before. I was going to Popeyes to get my chicken. There was a lady walked up to my car, dressed real nicely. She said to me, "Can you give me $2 or something to that effect?" She said she wanted to get her some food. It's okay. Come on in here. I'll buy you some food. She said, "No, I want you to give me the $2 and I'll buy my own food." I said, "Well, I'm going right in here to Popeyes. I can buy it right in here." She didn't want it. So I said, "Bless you." Well, as I got out of the car and going into Popeyes, she came in behind me and cussed me up one side, the other, down the other, because I would not give her what she had asked. She didn't want a blessing. She wanted the cash. The cash to do what she wanted to do, and not realizing that a blessing on her life was greater than a dollar or two. These are the things that you have to think about. These are the things that you have to consider when you're functioning and operating in that consciousness of God. The greatest that you can give is your blessing. If you have $1 to the spare, give it. Give it. But also in the giving of of your finances or your donations or whatever it is, bless it. So they're double blessed. But do not look down on a person because of their condition, their situation, and the environment in which they are in. They're all children of God. They have to be awakened to the truth of what they are. And I hear people say so many times, I feel so sorry for so and so. Don't go through the world feeling sorry for people, because feeling sorry for them is not going to do any good. You're just adding to what's already there. And I hear people say, they say to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Don't be sorry. We got enough sorry people in the world as it is. We don't need no more. Think about what it is that you're thinking before you speak it. Your brothers and your sisters, your children, they are all children of God. We're all brothers and sisters, all one family. We're not all functioning and operating on the same level of awareness or consciousness. And for those mothers and fathers that have 3, 4, 5 children in the house, you know that they're different. They're not all on the same level of awareness or consciousness. But when you feed them, you call them all to the table to eat. When you provide for them, you provide for all, because they're all of your household. But by the same token, we don't forget about those who are less fortunate. We don't forget about those that are less fortunate, because the same spirit of God that is within you is also within them. And we don't know that when a person comes to us seemingly in need and we turn our back, we could truly be turning our back on the Spirit of God in disguise. So if you don't have if you can't give monetarily, and if you don't want to give monetarily, bless them. We all have the ability and the power to bless. And as I've said, a blessing will go much farther than $1. God bless you. Namaste.